Everywhere. Anytime is Bashko time at the store that gives you more. The time by Bashko is
5 o'clock.
5.
Make sure that CCN clip ready. We need it for the second.
4.
Facts from the Clarendon correspondent coming through now.
3.
All the international stores in the folder. Good to
2.
Newsreaders all set.
Yeah, man, everything set, everything ready.
1.
From the grid to Morant Point, Newstalk 93 FM has got it covered. Across the 7 seas to the 4 corners of the world, it's all captured on the 93 radar, 93.1, 93.3, 93.5, 93.7, and 93.9 on your FM dial. Real News at 5 starts now.
For the 5 o'clock news roundup here on Newstalk 93 FM. I'm Errol Lee.
And I'm Andre Bernard.
Coming up in this newscast, soldiers tell closed session of West Kingston Commission of Inquiry they saw policemen killing innocent people in Tivoli incursion.
Former JLP councillor Don Creary charged with rape.
Truck crushes cyclists on Spanish Town Road.
And Member of Parliament for Western St. Andrew Anthony Hilton says plans are far advanced for the development of a workforce college in Seaview Gardens.
Now the details. The West Inquiry is in possession of evidence that soldiers allegedly saw policemen kill innocent civilians in Tivoli Gardens during the May 2010 West Kingston operation. Law enforcement sources have revealed that the commission is reportedly in possession of evidence from 3 soldiers who say they saw as many as 8 police personnel kill a number of innocent civilians. Reports are that consideration is being given to have the soldiers testify from a location other than the Jamaica Conference Center where the inquiry is being held. The matter was among issues discussed during a closed-door sitting of the inquiry this morning.
Former Jamaica Labour Party councillor for the Castleton Division, Don Creary, has been arrested and charged on rape allegations. His lawyer, Tom Tavares Finson, says Creary was charged in connection with an incident that occurred in 2013. Meanwhile, 22-year-old Shanique Williams has been charged with aiding and abetting Creary in connection with a rape charge against him. Williams and Creary were arrested and charged today after being questioned by the police. Tavares Finson says no court date has yet been set and Creary will remain in jail.
A cyclist was crushed to death by a truck on Spanish Town Road in Kingston this afternoon. Reports are that the incident is being described as a freak accident. The man was reportedly traveling towards the Portia Simpson Miller Square at about 12:05 p.m. when he was hit. People reportedly had to alert the truck driver to the fact that the vehicle had struck the cyclist. The incident has since caused a massive traffic pileup in the area as a team of police officers gathered at the location.
The St. Elizabeth police say a suspect who turned himself in on Monday could be charged soon in connection with the murder of 2 farmers and the injury of 3 other people in a shooting incident in northwest St. Elizabeth last week. Police believe the shooting resulted from an ongoing feud among blood relatives dating back to 2008 when a member of the same extended family was killed. Sources say one of the murder victims, identified as Jason Daly, is the nephew of the alleged shooter. Reports are that about 9:15 last week, a group of about 8 people were playing dominoes at a shop in Bypass District, Newmarket, when a gunman approached and opened fire. The deceased were identified as Joseph Taylor and Jason Daly, both 24 years, from Bypass. Police say a 33-year-old woman was among the 3 others who were injured in the incident.
A man is in custody following the seizure last night of a gun and ammunition at a bar in Tweedside, Clarendon. According to police reports, the man's identity is being withheld pending further investigations. The police said a team of officers made the seizure during an operation. Reports are that minutes after 10 o'clock last night, the police team was in Tweedside when they saw a man in a bar. Upon seeing the police, the man reportedly threw an object into a garbage bin. The police say the object was retrieved, and it turned out to be a Glock pistol with a magazine containing 17 rounds of ammunition.
Minister of Industry, Investment and Commerce Anthony Hilton is urging consumers who import motor vehicles into the island to first ensure that the manufacturers have dealers or representatives in Jamaica. The minister's advice comes as a result of several persons buying vehicles from overseas and not being able to obtain proper servicing for them due to the fact that the makers of the vehicles do not have local dealers. Hilton says while consumers are exercising their choice of what vehicle to purchase, they must not wait until they encounter challenges with the vehicles before seeking critical information. The forum was held to sensitize consumers about the motor vehicle policy and to explore some of the critical issues affecting consumers and players in the industry. Minister Hilton says the bill follows the government's requirement to implement a regulatory framework to protect consumer interests.
It seeks to address the importation of motor vehicles within a regulatory framework as we strive to enhance predictability, fairness, and transparency via specific and selective policy guidelines that address the following issues: road safety, consumer protection, consumer choice, competition law and policy, efficiency and effectiveness of the motor vehicle market in Jamaica, among other issues. Ladies and gentlemen, the motor vehicle import policy is critical to streamlining the motor vehicle industry while safeguarding the rights of the consumer.
Minister of Industry, Investment and Commerce Anthony Hilton. He was speaking at yesterday's public consultation on the motor vehicle import policy.
And Minister Hilton says plans are far advanced for the development of a workforce college in the community of Seaview Gardens. He made the disclosure during his contribution to the State of the Constituency debate in the House of Representatives yesterday. Hilton, who is also Minister of Industry, Investment and Commerce, said the development of the college will be done in collaboration with the Ministry of Education and the Heart Trust NTA. The minister noted that the college will provide skills training in critical areas that respond to the new and emerging labor market needs of the logistics-centered economy. He says in this endeavor, his ministry has sought to engage strategic partners such as the Caribbean Maritime Institute. Training at the college will include trailer driving, inventory and supply chain management, and other logistics-related functions.
Business owners will soon be required to ensure that they trade using the metric system only in order to avoid paying considerable fines. The announcement follows yesterday's move by the House of Representatives to amend the Weights and Measures Act. Industry, Investment and Commerce Minister Anthony Hilton says it is essential that the country has a proper functioning regime for measurement, as this is one of the factors to ensure the continuation of economic growth.
The sales of products or services, Mr. Speaker, that are impacted by the Weights and Measures Act account for a significant percentage of our gross domestic product. Industry sectors that are potentially affected by our Weights and Measures regime include retail food sales, other retail sales, petroleum products, transportation, chemicals, and electricity. To repeat, Mr. Speaker, developing and enforcing strong metrology standards is therefore essential to ensuring the vitality of trade and commerce, and is ultimately critical to the development of industry.
Hilton says the country must ensure that there is uniformity in the laws, regulations and standards that govern weights and measures to achieve equity between buyers and sellers in the marketplace. He says the bill seeks to amend the Act to provide for an increase in fines to a sum of $1 million for breaches of the law.
The regulation, Mr. Speaker, is amended to reflect an increase in the fine from $2,000 to $1 million where a person imports into Jamaica any weighing or measuring equipment without the approval of the Bureau of Standards in writing, or where a person has in his possession for use or purpose of trade any weighing or measuring equipment unit that is not specified in the Act. Subsection 3 of the Amendment of Regulation 15 of the Weights and Measures Act, which addresses the petroleum and fuel oil trade regulations of 2004. This amendment, Mr. Speaker, seeks to provide for an increase in the fine from $2,000 to $1 million, where a person violates any provisions of this Act or under this regulation dealing with the petroleum and oil fuel for trade.
Industry, Investment and Commerce Minister Anthony Hilton. He says the amendment to the bill seeks to deter offenders and ensures that consumers are protected and are given a high standard of consistent service.
You're listening to news on Newstalk 93 FM. It's 11 minutes after 5. The Nurses Association of Jamaica, the NAJ, which represents the island's nurses, has summoned delegates to an emergency meeting tomorrow to discuss the latest development in wage negotiations with the government. The meeting is scheduled to begin at 10:30 a.m. at the NAJ head office in Kingston. The emergency meeting follows talks with officials from the Finance Ministry yesterday. NAJ President Janet Korfar says the nurses are aware that government will not be increasing its 7% wage increase offer. She says it is likely that the nurses will vote to accept what's on the table. However, she says the meeting is to facilitate discussion on other fringe benefits and to decide on whether they can reach common ground with what they want and what the government is willing to offer. Several other public sector workers have agreed and signed off on the government's 7% wage offer. Nurses and the police are among the public sector worker groups yet to sign off on the wage offer.
Permanent Secretary in the Office of the Prime Minister, OPM, Onika Miller, has resigned effective the end of this month. Reports are that concerns were raised in the OPM regarding Miller's handling of two matters, including the controversy surrounding the Outermany saga. Meanwhile, Permanent Secretary in the Education Ministry, Elaine Foster-Allen, is tipped to replace her. Cabinet Secretary Ambassador Douglas Saunders has received instructions for the reassignment of Foster-Allen. Miller was assigned to act as Permanent Secretary in the Office of the Prime Minister on November 16, 2009, and appointed to the position the following year.
Executive in residence to the Mona School of Business, James Moss Solomon, explains the various steps and the level of frustration that voters encounter in preparing for elections.
My interview with the Electoral Commission, part of my recommendation was nota. I see someone has taken it up quite nicely in a letter to the editor of the Gleaner. Last, they are requesting a nota vote, which is in support of the exact thing that I wrote the commission on. None of the above. I've faced this dilemma that you have had in the past, and I have been to the polls and spoiled my ballot. But I'm saying that by doing that, not having an option of a nota vote, I seem to be just another person who doesn't know where to read and write and mark and explain.
Moss Solomon also refers to the voters' registration for elections and the eligibility of voters to exercise their franchise, even while stating why preparations for elections are important.
I'm just saying that what you are doing is voluntarily registering. So presumably in the next few weeks, an election is not called, then you, if it is called after November, you should be eligible to vote. So I am saying that, so you might be lucky, I don't know when the Prime Minister intends to call an election. So maybe you'll be able to vote. If not, you'll have just prepared for the next 4 or 5 years.
Jimmy Moss Solomon, executive in residence at the Mona School of Business. He was speaking on Fresh Start this morning with hosts Dr. Imani Tafari Amma and Sharon Hay Webster. It is being speculated that Prime Minister Portia Simpson-Miller might call early general elections.
Member of Parliament for North West St. Anne, Dr. Dayton Campbell, is suggesting that a way should be found to allow very low-income earners to benefit from a loan from the National Housing Trust, the NHT. Campbell says within his constituency is a list of 300 persons who are waiting to obtain the Food for the Poor unit, but he says his office cannot respond to this because it only gets 20 houses per year. He was making his contribution to the State of the Constituency debate in the House of Representatives on Tuesday. Campbell suggested that if Food for the Poor units are constructed at a cost of $6,000 each, those persons who earn at the lower end could be facilitated to get that loan and have the Food for the Poor come in and build that 2-bedroom unit so that they can have a shelter above their heads.
Chairman of the board of the National Solid Waste Management Agency, Dennis Chung, is decrying a shortage of equipment and trucks for garbage collection affecting the work of the entity.
Within the NSWMA and also the private sector, there is a shortage of compactors, number one, but also number two, there's an aging problem with compactors. So one of the things that we want to do is see how we can supplement the fleet with some new trucks so that we can meet the schedule that we put out.
At the same time, Chung says the focus is not only on purchasing more trucks for the NSWMA, but also to look at the broader issues affecting the agency.
The focus really should be more than just looking at the actual purchase, but rather, what the status is. The fact of the matter is that the NSWMA, we do have some systems in place where we're putting the schedules in place, and one of the things that we're going to be doing pretty soon is actually publishing the schedules that the public can hold us accountable for based on our research.
Chung, who is also executive director of the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica, adds that his team has identified some additional problems plaguing the NSWMA and they're working to address them.
We had a meeting about 2 days ago with the regional offices, and we do recognize that there are some backlog in some of the areas, particularly southern parks and markets. That situation is being addressed right now. As a matter of fact, from yesterday, we sent some additional trucks down there. But what is happening to us is that because of the age of the truck, lots of them are breaking down, and some of them that were bought, we have some maintenance issues with them. So really, irrespective of how much we want to go out and collect the garbage, if you don't have truck, you're going to have a problem.
Chairman of the board of the National Solid Waste Agency, the NSWMA, Dennis Chung, speaking on Fresh Start this morning.
And in news from the region, the Dominica government says it will build new homes in a completely different area for residents of Petit Savannah, the community in the southeast of the island that was worst affected by Tropical Storm Erica's destructive rains last month. Petit Savannah was one of 9 communities designated special disaster areas after the storm, and residents had to be evacuated via sea after flooding and landslides buried homes and made the area unstable. Residents of another disaster area, Dubique, will also be given homes at a new site. Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit says there is no way to rebuild Petit Savannah after the damage done by Tropical Storm Erica, and a committee representing the interests of the villagers agreed. Meanwhile, the Embassy of the United States of America has released an additional $100,000 to expand its disaster relief support to the island. The United States Agency for International Development, USAID, is providing the additional funding to augment an initial $50,000 humanitarian assistance contribution made to the Dominica Red Cross Society.
That's your local and regional news. For international news, let's join the BBC.
BBC News with Jerry Smith. The National Railway Company in Denmark has cancelled all train services to and from Germany after a standoff developed between police and hundreds of migrants. One group of migrants have been refusing to leave a train because they would rather travel directly to Sweden, which has more generous asylum rules than Denmark. Police have also been trying to stop several hundred others from walking along a Danish motorway to get to Sweden. Central European countries have reacted with caution and scepticism to an EU proposal that 160,000 refugees should be shared out between member countries on a compulsory basis. In Washington, a spokesman for President Obama said he believed the US had a moral responsibility to help address the crisis. The head of NATO says he's concerned about reports that Russia is increasing its military presence in Syria. Jens Stoltenberg said he would not help solve the conflict. In recent weeks, there have been signs that Russia could be intensifying its role in Syria. The leaders of Ukraine, Russia, France and Germany say a truce in eastern Ukraine between government forces and pro-Russian rebels has been generally respected since the beginning of September. In a statement after a conference call, the 4 leaders said they would meet in person to discuss peace efforts in Ukraine in October. After weeks of protests, the government in Lebanon has finally agreed a plan to resume the collection of rubbish. Mounds of foul-smelling waste have piled up in the streets of the capital, Beirut, a symptom of the political paralysis that has left the country without a president for more than a year. BBC News.
Broadcast Jamaican and Newstalk 93 FM now gear the news in the Jamaican language.
Good evening. My name is Kadeen Marshall, and this is the news in the Jamaican language. Anthony Hilton, who is the Minister for Industry, Investment and Commerce, I tell the people them where buy car and I bring them in the country to make sure so the company where them buy car from have people in Jamaica who work for them. The minister said this after I'm getting enough complaints that people are buy car from foreign and them not have no car parts of them in the country. Hilton been attack our motor vehicle meeting we keep in Kingston yesterday. Him say although people choose to buy what kind of vehicle they want, they must find out things about the vehicle first. Superintendent Melvin Brown, who been at the head of the Manchester Police Division, now in charge of the Area 3 Division, will include Manchester, Clarendon and St. Elizabeth. Him get the work Monday gone. Brown took over for Superintendent Warren Turner, who gone upon retirement. Superintendent Cameron Powell and now the head of the Manchester Police Division. She used to work at the Police Administrative Branch in Kingston. The police reports a rape gone down by 24% in the first 8 months this year. In the Jamaica Constabulary Force Periodic Crime Statistic Review, the police had 390 rape reported to them so far. The same time last year, 512 rape being reported to them. News from the rest of the Caribbean. Dr. Timothy Harris, who is the Prime Minister for St. Kitts and Nevis, said government not interested right now for putting the money in the regional airline Liat. Him say although Antigua and Barbuda put enough money in a Liat over the years, the country not have much for sure feed. Him said the amount of money problem what Liat have right now make it not look too good for nobody want invest in it. And at that make him country not quick for putting the money in the airline. Him says Smadia for convince him Team Unity government so if them put the money in a Liat right now, it would have make sense. News from foreign. Denmark stopped all of the rail link them with Germany after police stop all leap up migrant from cross the border. Migrant are people who left them country for go live and work in our next country. The Danish police lock off the road in the middle of the two country them when some people were seek help, then have to start work cause them put them off of one train. The people them said them are go Sweden. The European Union has struggled to deal with people who left them country. The European Commission has said the 120,000 people must go equally in the EU member country them. My name is Kadeen Marshall and that's the news in the Jamaican language.
Broadcast Jamaican and Newstalk 93 FM just gear the news in the Jamaican language.
The 5 o'clock Sports Roundup is brought to you by Newstalk 93 FM, life-changing radio.
Good afternoon. With your 5 o'clock sports roundup here on Newstalk 93 FM, I am Mikhail Drama Johns, and we begin with cricket. As questions have surfaced regarding the sacking of Dennis Ramdin as captain of the West Indies, the regional side's governing body has sought to clear the air. The West Indies Cricket Board WRCB today released a statement which states that Jason Holder's appointment had been recommended by the Clive Lloyd-chaired selection panel. They added that it was then endorsed unanimously by the directors. Among those contending the decision was Sinister are Trinidad and Tobago Cricket Board President Azim Basarath and former West Indies manager Omar Khan. Basarath says he does not agree with the decision to sack Ramdin, while Khan called on the WRCB to come clean. Moving on to track and field, Jamaica ended the recent Commonwealth Youth Games in Samoa with 6 medals, inclusive of 4 gold. Monday's final day saw Janelle Bromfield adding the 400 meters hurdles gold to the one she won in the flat event, and her time was a personal best 53.09 seconds in the hurdles event. Meanwhile, Kevin Nadrick made a personal best heave of 20.12 meters to win the shot put event. The other medalists were Jovny James, who claimed a silver on the boys 400 meters hurdles before going on to earn a gold as part of the boys 4x400 meters relay team, while high jumper Lashane Wilson was third in that event. And the Athletics Federation of Nigeria AFN, as well as the National Sports Commission NSC, has issued a ban on sprinter Blessing Okabari. The ban will see her being unable to represent the country at next year's Olympic Games in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. The ban follows her second place finish in 10.98 seconds in the 100 meters at the Diamond League meet in Zurich on September 3, after her claiming to have had an injury and opting not to represent Nigeria for the 2015 All-African Games. She also blamed the injury on a poor finish in the 100 meters of the world champs prior and her missing the half-lap event at those championships. And her performance after the championships brought into question her performance at the Diamond League meeting and her claims of an injury. And now to take a look at football, the Reggae Boys last night returned the favor of a home defeat to Nicaragua as the two contested the return leg of their World Cup qualifier. Heading into the game on the back of a 3-2 loss, the Boys earned a 2-0 win to advance 4-3 on aggregate. It was a nail-biting finish as the visitors were leading by a mere goal until substitute Simon Dawkins netted a volley 1 minute before the end of regular time. And further afield, Prince Ali bin Al Hussein of Jordan has announced that he will stand in the upcoming FIFA presidential election. In May's poll, Ali pushed incumbent President Sepp Blatter to a second round of voting, and in winning 73 votes, Sepp Blatter, however, stood aside in the contest, and that should be Ali after winning 73 votes. And he joins UEFA President Michel Platini as confirmed candidates to replace Blatter and lead football's world governing body. The election is due to be held on February 26th of next year. And finally, in tennis, Italian 26 seed Flavia Pennetta came from a set down to beat two-time Wimbledon champion Petra Kvitova and reach her second US Open semi-final. 33-year-old Pennetta capitalized on an erratic Kvitova performance to win a 4-6, 6-4, 6-2. Czech fifth seed Kvitova, who had ended Britain Jo Konta's run at the tournament, made 60 unforced errors. Pennetta, who will play either Simona Halep or Victoria Azarenka, is the second Italian into the semis, with Roberta Vinci facing Serena Williams, who last night beat her sister Venus Williams 6-2, 1-6-6-3. And that's it for the 5 o'clock sports roundup here on Newstalk 93 FM. I am Mikhail Jama John saying stay tuned for the business news and weather report.
The 5 o'clock sports roundup was brought to you by Newstalk 93 FM, life-changing sports radio.
At 5:29, time for business news. On the local stock exchange today, the index advanced by 518.70 to close at 98,795. The junior market index declined by 7.29 to close at 983.49. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 11 stocks, of which 6 advanced, 3 declined, and 2 traded firm. Market volume amounted to 1.3 million units, valued at over $25.1 million. Lime was today's volume leader. Stocks advancing: Carib Cement, Carreras, Grace, NCB, Sagicor Group, and Scotia Group. Stocks declining: Stock Exchange, Lime, and Radio Jamaica. And on the foreign exchange market, the U.S. dollar closed at $118.43, the pound $180.79, the Canadian $88.24, and the euro $132.47. That's business news.
And now we take a look at the weather. There is a tropical wave to the west of Jamaica, which is expected to continue moving toward the west. In the forecast for tonight, conditions will be mainly fair.
To end the news, the main points. Soldiers tell closed session of the West Kingston Commission of Inquiry they saw policemen killing innocent people in Tivoli.
Former JLP councillor Don Crary charged with rape.
Truck crushes cyclist on Spanish Town Road.
And Member of Parliament for Western St. Andrew, Anthony Hilton, says plans are far advanced for the development of a workforce college in Seaview Gardens.
That's your 5 o'clock news roundup here on Newstalk 93 FM. I'm Errol Lee.
And I'm Andre Bernard.
The evening edition with Lambert Brown. Next.
This is Newstalk 93 FM, broadcasting from the University of the West Indies.